of our beginning journey into machine learning. So hopefully many of you were motivated by last month's talk where I gave you sort of like overview as to how machine learning works and how ordinarily there's a little bit of a learning curve and how people can't just jump into it right away, and how, but what we can do is make it easier. So, generally when people, decide they want to get into the industry, they really should have a good, strong foundation, with mathematics, probabilities, statistics, algorithms and programming skills. And not everybody has all 5 of those skills, myself included. I have some of them, but certainly not all of them. And the main idea behind the APIs is to lower that curve and to make it so that it is easier to get started and then easier to sort of like get up to speed. And once you're able to sort of like, you get the vocabulary in your head, you know what a model is, about training, about making predictions, once you get all the vocabulary, then that kind of like leads you down that path towards being more of a data scientist. So this session, we're going to have only like maybe 3 slides at most, maybe 4. Of course, I'm probably going to have 6, right? But there aren't going to be that many slides because the most important thing is I want people to sort of like either see how things are done or actually do them with me. So I don't have enough coupons for everybody. So sort of you're going to have to divide yourself up as the audience. You're going to divide yourself up into those who are interested in just watching me do it so that you can like see it and then pick it up and then like do it on your own later. Or you're going to actively work with me in doing these exercises at the same time. So for the latter group, I have those coupons for you, and then if we have anybody else, if we have any extra coupons left over, then anybody else who wants to grab a coupon can join as well too. But you do need to do something. So you can't just watch. If you want to get a coupon, you actually have to go to a website and actually pull it up. So I'll show you the link in a moment once I get to the slides. Okay, so I just want all of you to sort of like, what camp are you in? Are you going to work with me on it like right now live in front of in front of the audience, or are you just going to watch so you can see how it's done so you can do it later? So the coupons are for the first group, and then if we have any leftovers, everyone else is happily you're invited to grab a coupon as well too. I want to use up all 70 coupons. Since there's 100 of you that have registered saying yes, we only have like 20 something dialed in right now. I guess it's going to grow as people drop off their work emails and things like that. I know no one's commuting. All right, I think some of you may be commuting, but not everybody is. Certainly not most of everyone. So anyway, so the big difference between this session and last session is we're going to do hands-on. So I want you to actually have working code by the time you're done. So that's the key reason why we're doing the hands-on. I'm going to point to a resource that you're going to use so that even if you can't do it right now, you don't have your computer, it's not available, it's in the other room or whatnot, I will still point you to where we're going to do the exercise so you can do it on your own later. Okay, but you got to grab the coupon tonight. And then you have to activate it before tomorrow because it's only good for like 24 hours. Okay, so there's only 70 coupons and they're good for 24 hours. So what we're going to do is hopefully you were inspired by last month's talk, but now we're just going to get hands-on. We're going to use Python, but there's some options as well too. So I'm Wesley Chan. I'm here to help take you through this process. If you weren't able to join last month, hopefully you're able to catch up by watching the video that we posted, that Raju and I posted in the Meetup page. All right, so let's get started. So what are we doing today? We're going to work through what is called a Google Code Lab. All right, so what is a code lab? It is a free, I actually missed that. That's the most important word, right? Free, self-paced, hands-on tutorial. The only thing you need is some sort of Google account. Preferably it's a Gmail account. I don't know if I have it here. I think I mentioned it a little bit later. If you use Google or G Suite at work, I probably would suggest that you log out of your work account and log into your Gmail account. The reason why is because if you work at a company where your administrators did not enable developer projects, okay, your coupon is going to go into the garbage because you won't be able to use it. So I just want to make sure that you log into the right account. If you want to play it completely safe, I also recommend that you use an incognito window or another browser window where you're logged into the account that you want to be in doing the exercise as well as redeeming the coupons. Okay, so that's a heads up. But anyway, so we're going to do this free self-paced hands-on tutorial. Generally, it's about a half-hour tutorial. It's you read, you code, you read, you code. Yes, there's a little bit of cutting and pasting, but hopefully, if the code lab is written well, we actually describe what is happening in each line of code, so that even though you're cutting and pasting, you're understanding what that code is doing, and hopefully you're able to take that code and kind of like build upon that. So we're trying to give you a working foundation so that you can take that and actually build something real for yourself, for your work, for your hobby, or something like that, or just to get up to speed, okay? Primarily using Python just because it doesn't require very many lines of code and it's pretty easy to use. There's only 4 scripts and they're, I think they're all less than 15 lines of code. I think they range from 12 to 17 lines of code, but it's not very much code at all, and that's one of the reasons why we're using Python. What we are not doing today is we're not going to be learning about machine learning. That was the talk from last month, so you can, again, go to the video or go to the slides, check it out. I'm also not going to be teaching you how to use Python. I'm going to expect that you already know. Obviously, there's a lot of online, teaching resources, and I've written a couple of books as well too. So we're not going to be teaching you any Python, but that's okay. You don't need to, because if you're cutting and pasting, as long as you're cutting and pasting, you're good. And we're going to be doing most of the development in the cloud, which already has a Python interpreter. It already has all of the Google Cloud SDK client libraries preloaded, so that we don't have to worry about things. As Raju mentioned, we posted some instructions for those of you who really do want to do local development on your own laptop that you have at home and whatnot, and that's perfectly fine too. But for everybody else, we're going to do it in the cloud because I want as many people to do it and not have to worry about setup, installation, and things like that, because that just takes up too much time. Okay, so what I want you to do is open a browser window. So let me get the laser pointer here. So open a browser window to this. So g.co/codelabs/vision-python. So that is the code lab that we're going to do. That link is always there. It's not going to expire. It's always going to be there, so you can go to it later, even if you don't choose to participate tonight. That's in Python. If for some reason you're passionate enough about C# and doing it in .NET, the longer link that you see at the bottom, I don't know what the short link is, or if there is a short link to the C# and the Ruby ones, but if you want to not do it in Python and you choose to do it in C# or Ruby, the equivalent code labs are at the links below there. They're available for you to do it. I'm not really good at C# nor Ruby, so I won't be able to help you walk through it, but if you're already an expert at those languages, feel free to do that instead. I'm not going to force everybody to do Python. We don't have a JavaScript version. I mean, there is a JavaScript code lab, but it is not identical. These 3 are identical, and they were made at the same time by my colleagues who sort of got together to work on this as a team. So that's why there's 3 of these. Okay, so so once you go there, you will see a window that looks something like this. So once you see this web page here, then you know you would have arrived. Okay, that tells you that's the beginning. So we're going to go follow that. But let's get back to the slides entirely. Okay. All right, so next is getting started. Using GCP Cloud Platform and the products and the APIs, whether you're getting a virtual machine or using the APIs like what we're going to do tonight, it is not free. Okay, each application that you build using Google Cloud requires a project, and every project needs to have a billing account, and that has to be backed by some sort of financial instrument, whether it be a credit card or, as tonight, you guys are going to get a $30 coupon. So for those of you who are going to do it with me hands-on now, please go to this link, and then actually I'll go there with you in a moment. All right, go to that link, sign into. Sign in. The sign in is kind of fake, I have to say, because I have multiple Google accounts because of work as well as for home, and even though I signed in from that web page, into one of them, it actually still sent me over to my corporate account, which I didn't want to do. So it's not completely foolproof. So that's why I suggest consider using an incognito window where there's nothing logged in and you're starting from scratch. But just be very careful. I don't want people to apply I don't have any more coupons, basically. I cannot give you another $30 coupon if you accidentally apply it to your work account and your work account does not allow you to do developer projects. Okay. So a little bit more about billing first before we actually get there, but I highlighted it so I know you guys can see it. So you're going to get sent to a really simple web page where it says, click here to access your credits or something like that. Okay. So first of all, it's not free and it requires billing. So we got that far. Now, there are a set of products that we have that have what is called an always free tier. So I know you can't click on this, but you can probably just go to cloud.google.com/free and then follow, just do a search for always free. And so what that means is that every day or every month, certain GCP products give you completely free access. Even if you give us your credit card, we're not going to charge you. For example, Compute Engine is our virtual machines, our VMs. You can actually get a small F1 micro VM, and it's free, completely free for an entire month. Okay, so that's one thing. We're going to be doing the code lab for the Cloud Vision API. All right, and Cloud Vision also has a free tier as well. So what happens is every time we call the API, it's basically ticks a counter. All right, and this counter counts up to 1,000. You get 1,000 feature API calls per month for free. You're probably not going to go over the 1,000, so you might not even need the coupon. All right. So what happens is after the first 1,000, then you have to pay $1.50 US, $1.50 US for the next 1,000, and so on. So if you make 3,000 calls, the first 1,000 is free, the second 1,000 costs you $1.50, and then the third 1,000 costs you $1.50 as well. And that goes on until you get to like 5,000. Once you get to 5,000, the price drops to $1 for every 1,000 calls you make. So it just gets cheaper if you make more calls. Okay, so that's the free tier. And so we probably are not going to be charged. All right, so even if you don't get the coupons because they run out, it's probably fine. Okay, because if you stay within the free tier, in other words, you're going to make less than 1,000 API calls tonight or over this month, then you're not going to have to pay. Okay, there is a pricing page. You can do a search for it and look up what the pricing is, and you'll see this. It's 1,000 for free, and then for every 1,000 after that, then it's like $1.50, and then it goes to $1 after that. Okay, but if you want hands-on and you want to take advantage of this free gift, that's perfectly fine too. I'm sure all 70 coupons will be consumed once we have enough people dialed in and are able to, redeem the coupons. Okay, so the rest of the way, we're going to be using the following tools. Besides Python, we're going to interact with what is called the Google Cloud Console. The console is where everything happens. It's where you set up all the different GCP tools you want to use. It's where you, do the billing. It's where you see how much is left for your $30 coupon. It also has a calculator that estimates what your monthly spend is going to be currently. It's where you enable APIs. So there's lots of different things that happen in the Cloud Console. So we're going to go there. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to use the Cloud Shell. So the Cloud Shell is basically kind of like a $300 free credit. Normally, I don't suggest people use this because it's a one-time thing, and it also expires in 12 months. So it's a good amount of money. But it expires in 12 months, and those 12 months go by really, really fast if you just put it aside and try and take care of it later. But that's the only alternative that we have right now where you absolutely will not have to worry about paying for anything. The other thing that you can do is if you want to give Google your credit card, that's perfectly reasonable as well too, because as long as we stay under the limits, even if you are punching in your credit card, the fact that we're not going to be making more than 1,000 API calls tonight, we're kind of lucky. We're going to be making 20 API calls tonight, and that's certainly very far from 1,000. So So yeah, so those are the couple of options. One is you do the $300 free credit, because if it goes away later, after it expires, you don't care about it. That's fine. You can do that, or you can create a project and create a billing account and add your credit card. Just don't expect to be charged. Or you can shut down that project after we're done, just to make sure, because once you shut down a project, there's no way you can get billed. So if you're totally paranoid that Google's going to start charging you for things, you can do that as well too. So there are some options. So anyway, so I apologize that you guys are getting this horrible screen. It worked yesterday. The guy that did it, confirmed that it worked today, but unfortunately he's based in Europe. That's why we're kind of like stuck in this horrible situation. So I did send a message to him, as well as one of the admins who's based locally here in San Francisco, but I don't know if she has the ability to reboot the system and get it working. So anyway, so I apologize for that, but I don't want it to take away from the knowledge that can be gained by walking through the code lab, looking at each line of code, and then just showing you how to do it using the Cloud Shell. So we're going to do that. Okay, so let's kind of get started here. Let me close down this. Well, I'm going to leave this screen just in case for some reason it comes back later. Who knows? Actually, I'm going to log out and try and log in with my other account, and maybe we'll get lucky that it's working for my Gmail account, but I don't really hold out too much hope for it. So we'll see. Log out. Nope, I did it, and it still says it's done. Okay, all right, never mind that for now. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So go into the Cloud Console. So you're going to create a project. There is a button up at the top here that says New Project. So you click on this, and then you can name your project. All right, you don't have to. We give you a default name if you want, but you can change it to whatever. You can say Cloud Vision Demo, or call it anything you want. So as you can see, I have a bunch of. Can everybody see my projects here? By the way, just one. Okay, great. All right, so you probably won't have this many, but there'll be a list, and you'll have one. So once you click on New Project, it'll start spinning the gears, and so here's where you choose your project name if you don't like this one. By the way, the project name is something that you can change at any time. All right, you can name it something now, but you can change the name of it later. Below it is something that you cannot change. So that's the project ID. So this is a random string to differentiate your project from everybody else's project from around the planet, and that cannot be changed. So if you don't want to take this generic ID and you want to change it, then click the edit button. Okay, but otherwise, the project name is just for you. It's a human usable string, whereas the ID is just an internal hash that tells the whole system, hey, this project is different from everything else in the system. And then you have to create a billing account. So I have my credit card billing account here, and then I don't know what other. I think I have a work account, so I think this is one of my work accounts. But anyway, so if you want to punch in your credit card, that's fine. If you work in a company, you're probably going to get something like this too. I don't work, I do work in a company, but I'm signed in with my normal Gmail account. So anyway, so you click create, and then the gears will start spinning, and then at the end it'll tell you you have a new project. And what will happen is it's going to bring you into your project. So you're going to see the name of the project up at the top, or you can click on it and go and pick whatever project that you want to click on. Okay. So that is the Cloud Console. So what you can see when you look on this screen, it tells you something about your project. So it has that name, it has that unchangeable project ID, and then there's also a number. The reason why you get this information is sometimes you get asked for at least one of these. Okay. In some cases, you'll get asked for your project name. Actually, that doesn't happen too often. Other times, you get asked for your project ID, and then other times you get asked for your project number. Anything goes. I can't even tell you like if there's a pattern, on which one you get asked for. But at a certain time, you're going to have to like use one of them. Okay. Also on here, it tells you what resources that you're currently using. It tells you a little bit about some of the APIs that you're using. It gives you your estimated billing charges. So for my account, it looks like for this half of June, I'm going to be billed $4.37. Okay. By the way, if you thought that the $300 free trial is not a lot of money, or maybe you don't think the $30 coupon I was going to give you tonight is a lot of money, Google is really not good at charging you for things. You know, like search and Gmail and YouTube, Android, you know, obviously you have to pay for the phone. We're not really good at charging money for things, so you're not going to blow through that $30 as fast as you think you may, or the $300. It actually takes a lot because the free tier I was telling you about, it's pretty generous and it applies to many products, and you have to exceed that monthly or daily free quota in order to incur billing. So we sponsor student hackathons all the time, and we give all the students $50. None of them run out. You know, barely any of them use up more than 25% of it. So it doesn't sound like a lot of money. It's just that we're not good at charging you, right? Okay, so just think of it that way. But if we are going to charge you, you know, you can take a look at this for your estimated billing charges, and then you can, you know, dive deeper by clicking to check out your more detailed charges, where it tells you exactly how much money is going to which resource. You know, maybe you left a VM running, or maybe you left, you know, a couple of large files on your cloud storage. So it actually gives you a breakdown, so you can actually get a good idea of how much it costs. So this dashboard here, the Cloud Console, is your overall dashboard as to like what you're doing in cloud, how you're using it, how you're getting billed for it, and all those things. On the far left-hand side, this little menu here is called the navigation menu, or we sometimes call it a hamburger because it kind of looks like a sideways hamburger. But if you click on that, you'll actually see all of the menu options, and then you can scroll down. So this is kind of like a small tour of it, but all of the cloud products are under the products list here, and then below it, you'll see what the compute products are. You'll see what the storage products are. And then there's going to be like networking and operations, security tools, big data. So there's lots of different tools. So you basically have to kind of like go and choose which ones you want to use. Okay. What we're going to use is we're going to use an API. Okay, and so that's done by APIs and services. If you don't have it up here, this is my pin section. So the things that you either pin with a little pin like this, or you use very often, they kind of float to the top because you use them quite often. I use APIs quite often because that's my job, is to teaching you guys how to use our APIs, right? So I use the API manager quite a bit. So when you click on this one, you get brought to the API manager, and this has its own dashboard. And this dashboard shows you what APIs are you using, how much traffic are those APIs generating, and then is your application generating errors, and then also how fast is your application responding to its users. So here I don't have much traffic, but if you did, it would show up here. Here's how many errors your app is generating. It also shows you know how fast do you respond to your users by giving you the latency. So it gives you lots of useful information regardless of what kind of app you're writing. And then down here below that is a list of all the APIs that you've enabled. Clearly, I've been testing out the workshop, so I've made 13 calls to the Vision API, still very far away from 1,000. Okay, I've made a couple of calls to Compute Engine, a couple of Cloud Function calls, all right, a couple of natural language. I did that last night. I also did text-to-speech last night as well, too, just in case we had time to explore some of these other ones. But all these other ones I have enabled, I haven't used them. They're enabled, but they're not being used. Okay, so that's what the dashboard shows you. So now that you've created a project, what we're going to do is we're going to go and find the Vision API and turn that on. Okay, so click on Library, and then this will bring you to a generic search bar. And what you do here is you start searching for APIs you want to turn on. You can take a look here. You can see there's a bunch of maps ones. Here's some machine learning ones. G Suite. I didn't even need to search for Vision. It's right here. It's the second one. If you want to code, Drive, Calendar, Gmail, it's down here. YouTube. So these are kind of grouped according to sort of like their product categories. All right, so you can go and pick some other ones to enable if you want to, but it's not a big deal. If Vision wasn't showing up here, I would actually go to the search bar and start typing VIS. As soon as you start typing, if you spell it correctly, if you start typing it, it will actually just bring up whatever matches. And of course, it's the first one that matches, so click on that one. And then you'll get brought to the page that tells you a little about API, and it gives you a link to some tutorials and documentation. And right here is a blue button, and that button is going to say Enable. All right, so please click that. Once you have enabled this API, that word Enable changes to Managed, like what you see here in my console. Okay, because I've already turned on this API. And you'll also see a little green checkbox that says that API is enabled. We do not... Well, the reason why you have to do this is because we're not, for every project, we are not going to enable every single Google API. There's just too many, right? So the main idea is you go and pick and choose which ones you want to use. You know, some of them, of course, like the GCP ones, the cloud ones require billing. Other ones don't. All right, so like the G Suite ones are free, you know, using the Gmail API, Drive, using YouTube. Those APIs are free. Most APIs are actually free, believe it or not. I think Maps charges, but Maps gives you $200 a month for free. So you can try the Google Maps ones if you want to, you know, if you want to do so. But anyway, so most of you hopefully have gotten your Vision API enabled by now. Okay, so it's pretty easy to turn it on. And that's really all you have to do. Now you can use the Vision API. What that really does is that it will recognize this project. If you're writing code with this project and you do make a call to the Vision API, it says, oh, this person's already enabled it. They've got billing set up so that if they make more than 1,000 calls, we'll bill them $1.50 and things like that. So that's why you have to enable it, because it talks to the billing system and things like that. Okay? All right, so once you're done with that, go back out. Let's see, go back out to the, you have to go back out to the dashboard. You can also use the browser back button as well too to get back to the dashboard. So once you get back to the dashboard and you scroll down to the bottom to see all the different APIs that you've enabled, Vision should show up down there somewhere. So you should have Vision API here. All right, so that's part one. The other thing that you need to do is you need to create credentials, because you don't want other people using your quota and charging your credit card, right? So you have to make credentials, which only you can make because you're here in the console to prove you are who you say you are, and that you have access to you're authorized to access the Vision API. So you're going to click on the credentials button. All right, and you're going to see a bunch of stuff. So here we have 3 different types of credentials. We have what is called the API key. We're not going to use that tonight. We also have OAuth 2 client IDs. We're not going to use that either. Instead, we're going to create what is called a service account. So down in the last section, there is a service account button. And what you're going to do is you're going to go and click Manage Service Accounts and start that process. So anyway, so I wanted to lead you to this because I'm going to go and jump into the code lab now so we can see these steps that I've just outlined for you that I've done sort of in person. I kind of did this backwards where I was supposed to have shown you what the tutorial said and then do it, but I just want to get started right away. So let's go back to the tutorial and take a look. Okay, so for every code lab, we basically give you an overview of what the tutorial is about. Then we tell you what kind of things you're going to learn, what you need to get started. So basic Python skills would be helpful but not required. We do require you to be using Python at least 2.6 and newer, so 2.6, 2.7, or any of the Python 3 releases as well. You can use any supported language, but this tutorial is also only additionally available in C# and Ruby, so I'll give you guys those links already. And then there's a survey. It's optional. Feel free to fill it out. It doesn't really have that much information, and I'm actually not sure where the data goes, but somebody's looking at it, so if you want to fill it out, that's great. Otherwise, let's move on to the next page, because this should only have taken 1 minute. All right, so it's a 36-minute tutorial. I gave you 2 minutes for it, so now we're down to 34. So creating a new project, so this is how to do it. So I already walked you through that. They also talked about the project ID, the project name, enable billing. Okay, so the next step we want to do is I want to show you Cloud Shell. So Cloud Shell is that little restricted VM. So if you go back to your console, the Cloud Shell is going to be always in the top bar, the blue bar. So if you see something that looks like a little command line prompt, that's the Cloud Shell button. So press that, and what it will do is it will open the bottom part of your screen, and it will create a VM. If you've never done it before, it's going to say, you're about to launch the Cloud Shell. It's going to create this restricted VM. Do you really want to do this? You say yes, and then when you say yes, it will go and do something like this, where you get this shell. If you know Linux, this will be a good time for you to leverage that knowledge, like what's in the directory. It's going to be pretty empty for you. For me, it's got a whole bunch of stuff, things that I've been working on. I probably should have uploaded some stuff for this tutorial, but I didn't because I wanted to sort of like do it live. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, you should have a pretty empty directory. You can run a bunch of common Linux commands. I don't think they let you run all of them. They do let you run a good number of them, so I can actually do W or hostname just to see what the host is. I can probably do, I wonder if I can do ifconfig-a. Okay, yeah, so it gives you access to a bunch of operating system stuff. I don't know if it shows you who's logged into the system. I guess it does as well, too. Does it do finger? Okay, it doesn't have that. So yeah, so not all the commands are there, but a good number of commands are available to you. The best thing about this Cloud Shell is that all of the developer tools are loaded. So if you are a Java developer, you can type, I think, the Java compiler. You can type Ruby. That's also available to you. There's also Go. Okay, and of course there's Python, Python 2, as well as Python 3. All right, so all of these are available for you. And the best part is all of the Google Cloud, or most of the Google Cloud packages that you would probably use are also available as well. So let me, so if this window is not big enough for you, click on this button right over here, and it will basically open this in an entirely different browser window. Because I often find that 10 lines is not enough for me. I prefer at least 40 lines. So I'm going to click this and open Cloud Shell in a separate window. So if you didn't learn anything tonight, learning how to start the Cloud Shell is pretty important because it's a pretty useful thing. Okay. All right. So let's see what we have. Whoops. I don't know where that came from. Where's my Cloud Shell? All right, it's off that page. It should be on this page. I don't see my Cloud Shell, which is not good. Let's see. Terminal settings. Let's see if that works. That's kind of creepy. I don't know why my Cloud Shell isn't coming up, but hopefully all of you have your Cloud Shell working. I may have to actually go back to the one with 10 lines here. And just make it taller. All right, I don't know what's wrong with Cloud Shell. We'll work on that. I also want to edit something too, so hopefully the editor's working. As long as the editor's working, that's the most important thing. All right, so let's go back to the Cloud Shell. As I mentioned before, all of your SDK packages are available for you. So if we were using Python, you can see here, these are all the installed packages. Okay, and most all of the Google Cloud ones are available for you. They're already installed, so that's why you don't need to install anything, including the Vision API client library, which we're going to use tonight. So we're going to be testing that in a moment. So let's go back to the tutorial. So you know how to start Cloud Shell. You can follow the instructions on how to confirm that you're logged in. If you haven't logged in, you should log in there. But you should, because you're doing it from your Cloud Console, which should automatically log you in. It should also log you in under the project that you have. If not, you can use these commands. So you can do gcloud config list project to show what project you're logged in as. And then if you're not logged into the correct project, then you can just do gcloud config set project and then the project ID. So I'm just going to copy this into my Cloud Shell so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I just typed in gcloud config list project, and it tells me I'm in this project, which matches my project name up here. Okay, so that's definitely a good sign. All right, and that's it as far as setting up Cloud Shell goes. Now to confirm your Python environment. So again, I recommend that you use the Python environment that we already have because it's already available for you. Everything's installed. You don't need to do it. But you can install it if you want. IPython is also available for you, so if you are a data scientist or you know Jupyter Notebooks and you're more comfortable with IPython, IPython is available for you. Only for Python 3, though, as you can see, I didn't need to type IPython 3. So if you do like IPython, then feel free to go ahead and continue to use that and use that here in Cloud Shell. Okay, what else do you need to know? If you are on a computer, like your work machine, and you do not have super user access, then we recommend that you use virtual environments. So virtual environments is this optional section where Again, if you are in a restricted environment and you can install packages, then we recommend that you create a virtual environment. And one of the great things about the virtual environment is that it creates it in user space. So it installs a full working copy of Python and then anything else that you add to it. And then if for some reason you're working on something and then you accidentally corrupt it, you can just blow it away and it doesn't affect anything else. It doesn't affect the Python that's installed on your system and all that kind of stuff. Any of your system installed packages, all that are still there. So virtual environments are a quick way to create sort of like an environment that you can blow away if anything bad happens, and then start up a new one. So if you're needing to do that, you can do it using the commands here. So you just follow those instructions to go and do that, but we don't need to because we're going to do everything in Cloud Shell. All right, so moving on to the next step. So this is where you turn on the Vision API. Now, I know some of you who are hardcore developers, you prefer to do everything from the command line, and that's perfectly fine. You can do that. So if you want to enable the Vision API from the command line, you would issue this request instead of doing what we did by doing it in the Cloud Console, from the API manager, right? So you can also issue that command in the Cloud Shell. If I do it here, it's not going to have any effect because it's already been enabled. I don't get anything here. It doesn't show anything because it's already been enabled, but you can do that. Okay, otherwise, the next few steps just show you exactly what I just told you, which is how to enable the Vision API, and that we've done it. So here's your enable button. You turn it on, and it changes to manage and all that stuff. The next step is to creating service accounts. So I started into that process but realized I really needed to back out of it and show you all this stuff first. Again, you can do that completely in the command line if you want to, or you can just do it pretty easily from the Cloud Console as well. So the instructions look something like this. So again, if you're following along, please just actually do this while we're doing it so that you have something working and ready to go by the time we get to the code, which is coming up in a couple of steps. So click on credentials. You've already done that. You're going to click on service account. Once you click on create credentials, all right, you have the option of those three that we saw on your credentials page. So when you click on create credentials, you get to choose which one you want to create. So select service account. I'll give you a minute to do that while I scroll down. In fact, it should only take you 10 seconds. The trick is going to the top and clicking on create credentials. That's probably the hardest part. But once you create a service account, it's going to ask you for the name of the service account. And you could say, this is for, demoing Cloud Vision, or, anything you want that lets you recognize what this service account is made of. So maybe taking a step back, maybe your question is, what is a service account? And that would be a very good question. So think of your Gmail account. Okay, your Gmail account belongs to you, a human, so that's a user account. All right. A service account is where you're in a situation where an application is running in the cloud, or you don't have a human nearby, or it's a robot user that controls a certain amount of data or belongs to an application, and you don't really have a human user to associate this data with. So that's what a service account is. It is a robot user, or it represents a user that is an application that's running in the cloud. Okay. If you are, for example, just to take a quick side pivot, if you're writing an application using, the Google Sheets API because you want to manipulate some spreadsheets that you have, you're going to enable the Sheets API, and instead of creating a service account, you would be creating what is called an OAuth client ID, because spreadsheets are generally owned by a human user, and that user needs to authorize your code to give that code access to their data, right? You can't access people's data, it's private. So it requires user opt-in, okay? But if you have an app that's running completely in the cloud, there is no human user to ask for permissions, right? And so that's why we have service accounts. Okay, in a service account, it's basically, like I said, a robot user or an application that's running in the cloud, and it's not a human. So by default, you're opting in to that service account, giving whatever code that uses this service account access to whatever data that is owned by the service account. Okay, so that's what sort of in a nutshell a service account is. It is a fake user, it's a robot user, but it has the same features as a regular Gmail user or a Google account holder. It's an account like a normal human account. It's just not, it just doesn't belong to a human. In fact, it's registered to you, right? So these service accounts are kind of like owned by your Gmail account in some way or another. Okay. So anyway, so you're gonna give the service account a name, and then it's gonna make some service account ID. They all end with iam.gserviceaccount.com. You can't control that, but what you can do is you can kind of like name the email address that it belongs to. So you could just say Vision Demo or Test1 at whatever your API project name is, .iam.gserviceaccount.com, and then you click Create. You can also give a description if you want to. Like if you're going to create so many service accounts that you can't keep track of them, it's probably a good idea to give a description, okay? Because then you can search for it later, okay? So click on Create, and then what you do is you can also assign permissions. That's optional, but we want to do that. So you want, for this test account, you want to give people, you want to sort of like select, so who gets access to this service account? What can this service account do? All right, so that's what these roles are. So in this particular case, you can do something small like project viewer. They can look at your project, they can browse your project, they can edit things in your project. All right, so you can kind of choose like what kind of role does this person have. So normally I just use project and then I pick one of these 4 roles. Okay, for this code lab we can do view because we don't really need, this service account. You don't want to give up too many permissions, right? Because if somehow, I don't know how this service account can get compromised, but then you don't want to give it like owner access to your project or whatever, right? So I just picked sort of like the lowest security level because we're really just accessing the Vision API. We're not really doing anything with the project at all. So click Project Viewer and then click Continue. And then once you do that, then it asks you for one other thing, which is creating a key. All right, so in order for you to talk to an API as sort of a non-user, you need to create a private key pair. All right, so please click on Create Key. I know it says optional now because you can create a service account that doesn't have a key. All right, but in our case, we want to do that. So click Create Key, and then for what type you want to create, select JSON. All right, the P12 format has been deprecated, and it's only for backwards compat reasons. So for most everything else, we just recommend using JSON. Okay. And then once you're done with that, it's going to download a file to your system. It's going to look like this: your project ID followed by some huge hash.json. Okay, that's really unwieldy for a file name. So we just recommend that you shorten it to something like key.json or serviceaccount.json. It's going to save to your local machine, but what we're going to do is we're going to upload that to our Cloud Shell, because that's kind of like a mini VM, right? It doesn't have your public or your private key pair. So if it prompts you to save it, then save it. Okay, if you make a mistake, you can go create another key. All right, so don't worry about messing up. Once that file is saved, you're going to get this this acknowledgement that says private key is saved to your computer, and then when you can just click the close button, then we can move on. Okay, if you're going to be doing Cloud Shell, so I think I don't have the instructions here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your Cloud Shell, and in this little 3-dot thing here where it says More, okay, if you click on this More, it gives you some options, and what you're going to do is you're going to click Upload File, and you're basically going to upload your service account file to your Cloud Shell. So let me see if I have one. I'm pretty sure I have one somewhere in here. I'm just going to look for it. Hold on a second. Okay, so in my GCP directory, I have my, oh, this happens to be the code that we're going to be using tonight. What a coincidence. All right, so service account.json. So here's your private key, and it has some other things in this JSON file. None of it really matters to you. None of it's really important. The main idea is that the Google APIs are going to communicate with the server using this. And this is what gives you access to the APIs. Okay? All right. In your Cloud Shell, set your application credentials environment variable to point to that file wherever it's located. All right, so we're going to be in bash here. So let me see if I've already set that. So env, I believe, is the command line to see what you've set things as. And let's see if I have this set up somewhere. Google application credentials. I actually do not see it. Let's see. Oops, wrong one. I guess I didn't cut this. All right. All right. I can just, before I assign it, let's double check one more time. Echo, I don't have anything assigned to this. Nope, it doesn't exist. So I'm going to assign it to it knows. It knows. Okay. So just to make sure it works. Okay, so what I did was I set the environment variable to my file. So you guys do the same. Okay, and then what I did was I confirmed that it's set to this file. And then I basically dumped out the contents of my application credentials using the variable name, so I know that my script's going to be able to access it. And if you see all this stuff on the screen, then you're in good shape. For those who are actually doing it, can I get an acknowledgement that you guys are at this step? If not, I will pause for a minute or two to let you all catch up. So how's everybody doing? How many people are actually doing this? Brave souls that have committed your credit card, or just, you can type in the chat window if you want, so that I could see that you're doing it. I don't want to pause if we don't need to pause, right? Okay. All right, Daniel, great. Anybody else able to get that working? Okay. All right, let's move forward because we're running a little low on time. So let's do that. Hopefully you guys got it working. All right, next step is to install the Cloud Vision client library for Python. As I mentioned before, if you're using Cloud Shell like we are, you should already have it installed, and you can kind of like use this little command here to sort of confirm that. If it says you have it installed, that's great. And then there's another command that you can prove that's working. If you just type this line, it'll actually bring up Python 3, and it will load up, it'll import that, the Cloud Vision client library, and you should have no errors at all. Okay, it should just come back blank, just like the way you're seeing on my screen right now. Okay. Okay, great. So now that it's all working, let's get to the real important stuff. Working, everything's going to be pretty quick. Okay, so we're on perform label detection. So click on this link that you see here. This is a street scene in the city of Shanghai. So when you click on it, it's going to open up a picture of this image here. Take a mental notice to what you see on this page as a human, right? You see a bunch of people. You see maybe a market, somebody riding on bicycles and a scooter. You see people wearing hats and umbrellas. There's a building here. It's probably a place of living. There's some Chinese writing. So just kind of sort of like take note of what you see on this in this image, because I want you to compare what you see with what the Vision API sees. Okay, so that is the image that we're going to analyze. And what we're going to do is we're going to analyze it with this code here. So the next step for you is to take this code, copy it, and paste into an application called label-detect.py, or whatever name you want. You just call it label if you want. If you're particularly lazy, that's fine. But just copy and paste this, okay? And before you run it, you can run it if you want, but I want to walk you through the lines of code so you understand exactly what it's doing, okay? So up at the top, ignore this feature import. That it's only if you're running Python 2. Everything will work perfectly without that in Python 3. And even if you have this line of code in Python 3, it'll still work because it gets ignored. Some of you may not know that the print statement in Python 2 gets converted to the print function in Python 3. So this just makes it so that this code runs on Python 2 and on Python 3 with no problems. Okay. The most important thing is to import the Cloud Vision client library. So you do that with from google.cloud import vision with spaces in between the big words. Okay. What that will do is that will bring in all the necessary code that you need to access the Vision API with. The next line of code is where is my image? Okay, so this is pretty basic. It's just a URL for wherever your image is located. In this particular one, the image that I'm using here is sitting in Google Cloud Storage. Okay, but that may not necessarily be the case for you. Okay, if it is in Cloud Storage, then you have this URL that starts with gs://. If it is something else, like for example, you have an image that's online somewhere, and instead of GS, maybe it's located on the web somewhere. You can actually change that to something else. So, for example, instead of this GS, so let me just edit that file. So I'm going to go in here, and the file is label detect. Okay, so you have this GS thing here, but if your image is somewhere else, we can comment this out and add another one, image URI equals, HTTP. Okay, maybe your image is on the web somewhere. And it's also possible for you to change this to use prompt you to use a local file from your computer to upload it as well too. I don't have the code to show you how to do that here, but you can definitely do that. Okay, but this is the kind of like the quickest fix. Like if you don't want to use this file is open to everybody on Google Cloud Storage, so that's not a problem. But you can also use this is actually the same file, but using the HTTP endpoint instead. So you can change this if you want. It's optional, not a big deal. It should work either way. Okay. Most important thing is you have some kind of URI right now that identifies where this resource is located. Okay. So that's that line. The next line of code is where you create a client to the API. This is where I'm going to start talking to the Vision API by becoming a client of it. So I'm going to call vision. So that's imported from cloud, google.cloud.vision.image annotator client. Okay. Most of the time, this is what you'll be using if you're using the Vision API. So that is a client, the API client. The next thing is we have to create an image type because we're going to be analyzing an image with the Cloud Vision API. So that's pretty easy. So I'm going to create an image type. So that's google.cloud.vision.types of image. So it's an image type. Assign that both of these, the client, the API client and the image object to the image variable. And then what I can do is I can set the image object source to that URI. So I'm basically now connecting this picture to this image object. Okay? And then we're all set to go. The next thing is just to call the API and say, hey, please detect objects and give me back the labels of the objects that you see in this image. And so that's done with this next line. So my API client dot label detect. What image do I want to use? The one that I just created. So if you're not familiar with Python and you think it's really bizarre to see image equals image, it's because of the following. The variable that I'm passing in is this image object, so that's the second one. The first image is the name of the variable, the local variable name inside the label detection function. That's it. It may have been better if I called this something else so it doesn't look bizarre to you, but this is typical Python nomenclature, so it's not that strange. Okay? So here we're making an API call. Please analyze this image and then get a response. Once we have a response, we're just going to print to the screen labels and what is called a confidence score. So a label are the items that the API thinks is in the image, and the confidence score is sort of what is the likelihood that the object, the label that the API saw is actually in that image or photograph or whatnot. So that's what we're going to look at. So we're going to print an empty line here. I think, so this, if you don't know this nomenclature, this is basically Python code for doing 30 equal signs next to each other. Yeah, just basically print a vertical or horizontal line. And then what we do is we loop through all of the responses. So that's response.label annotations. And for each of those labels, I'm going to print the label description in text, followed by parenthesized percentage, the confidence score of how likely is this object in this image. And then you, on your screen, should be seeing output almost identical to this. Okay. Here's my labels and confidence score up at the top. Then here's my 30 equals sign as a horizontal line. And below, it's going to be everything that the Vision API sees. So that includes people, 95% chance there's people in this photo, 89% chance it's a street image, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it gives you all the labels and then the confidence scores. Why is the confidence score important? There are certain applications where you may be only interested in showing things, or it's at least 80% likely that this object is part of this image. Maybe you're trying to store some of these into a database, but you don't want to have any wrong answers in there, right? So maybe you're going to use the confidence score, some sort of threshold level, to determine whether or not you want to save that data or not. Okay? If you get an error, an environment variable error, it's probably because you forgot to set the Google Application Credentials environment variable, so this tells you how to solve that. Okay, but basically this output is what you should see. And as you get this output, can you please type into the chat, yes, I got the output, or something like that, so I know those of you who are actually doing this sees this output. Okay, I will try to run it myself here in the Cloud Shell. So originally, I did 79 equal signs, but that was too long, so I'm going to change it to 30 as well. My code is a little bit different, so I'm just going to, I'm going to do what I told you guys to do, which is I'm going to cut and paste this directly, because the first version of this program, what only works in, well, okay, I'll have to be really honest now. This code is in the GitHub repo, and it's only Python 3.6 and newer because it uses F strings. And since I wanted to make the tutorial a little bit more friendly, where it doesn't require everyone to upgrade everything, I wanted it to work in Python 2 as well as Python 3. So I sort of like downgraded the code that's in the GitHub repo. So if you actually go and get the source code in the repo, it's going to be 3.6 only and higher, 3.6, 3.7, 3.8, or 3.9. That's your only choice. But I'm going to just paste this one here just to confirm that it works as well too. Then I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to run it in Cloud Shell. Let's make sure it saved it. So Python. So okay. So it has today's timestamp at 7:46, which is right now. So Python. In fact, this should work. And I'm going to run it in Python 2 first to confirm that it works. Oh, Python 2 is deprecated. Use Python 3 as soon as possible. So here we are. There's the output. But I can also run it with Python 3 as well too. It should work with both, and it's all because I have that little from future import statement at the top. Okay, so can I get a yes? Everyone got this working? Okay, I think. All right, so let's move on. Since we only have about 14 minutes left, we'll move on to the next example. But that's it. It's really just how many lines of code is this? My cloud editor tells me it's 15 lines of code, and if you remove this from import, that's 14 lines of code. If you remove the blank lines, that's 10 lines of code. All right. 10 lines of code to be able to get some label annotations of an image, which is pretty awesome. All right, so you're leveraging the power of machine learning. Machine learning is telling you what it sees, so that you don't have to go through a million photographs or images and try and figure out what's in them. Okay, you can use the API for that purpose. All right, so the next thing is we're going to do a little OCR. That's text detection. So if you go to the next page, which is step 8. And you click on this image, this is a sign. I believe it's Australia. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it's either in Australia or in the UK somewhere. It's definitely not from the US, that's for sure. And what we're going to do is we're going to extract the text out of here. And not only are we going to extract the text, but we're also going to extract where in this image that text is found. All right. I'm going to turn on my light here. I don't think it's going to help too much because it's still a little bit sunny here. All right, but if this makes me brighter and easier for you to see me, that's fine. All right, so anyway, so we're going to look at that image. So I'm going to close the Shanghai one. So we're going to analyze this image and extract the text out of it. So the code that does that is the following. So the import statements are the same. Now my image is going to differ, so it's going to be a different public image. It's also available in this cloud storage folder. Everything else is the same. Create the API client is the same. Creating an image object is the same. Assigning the URI for that image is the same. Everything is exactly the same from the first line all the way to the whatever the 7th line this is. Okay, the only things that differ are the API call. So instead of label detection, now we're doing text detection. So this is a key to telling the API, hey, instead of doing objects that are in the photograph, let's do some OCR or optical character recognition. Okay. So we get a response back from the API, and then I'm just going to loop through all of the text annotations. I'm going to print a vertical line in between each one. I'm going to print what it is that it sees. And then I'm going to show you where in the image that this text was found. So it's going to, the API returns the bounding box. So we're just going to display the vertices of like what pixel by what pixel, where are we located? Where are those images? Where is that text located? So you can see overall, I'm going to display the text description, which is everything it read out. Okay, so here's everything that it found. And hopefully this output matches everything that you see in the sign. Caution, autocrossing for the next 6 miles. Okay, caution, autocrossing for the next 6 miles. That's great. It did its job. It's perfect. But in case you want to know where in that image that text was found, for every word, you'll see a different bounding box. So this will show you the bounding box of all the text. So like all of the text as a whole. And then this will show you the bounding boxes for each of the individual words that it finds. And those bounding boxes based on XY coordinates and pixels in pixels. Okay, so that's how that works. Pretty basic. Let me see if I can run this one as well. So we're done with label detect. So let's do text detect and change this code to the new one. All right, save it. And then run it. Python text detection. Okay, so you should have the exact same output. All right. All right, so that is OCR. Just as simple. This one is 16 lines of code, 1 line longer than the other one. All right, but really 11, right? Really, really short. Okay, so that's great if you got this working. The next step is landmark detection. So we're going to look at this image of the Eiffel Tower. Okay, close the autocrossing. So here is a photograph of the Eiffel Tower. It is also in a publicly accessible cloud storage bucket. Okay, and let's see if we can detect landmarks. Let's see, what is the same? Everything, again, the first 7 or 8 lines are identical. The only difference is now I have a different photograph. Okay, and then we move to the API call, and that's different. So instead of label detect or text detect, now I'm doing landmark detect. Okay, yeah, landmark detect. So we're going to call landmark detect, and for every response, every landmark item that it finds, print a horizontal line, and then just print information on the landmark. So here we are. So the first thing is it finds the Trocadero Gardens. Okay. And it tells you the bounding box where the park is found, which surrounds the Eiffel Tower. And then it gives you the Eiffel Tower is found, and it tells you, also sort of like a confidence score, or how much percentage does it take up in the image? Very little. Okay. So, and then it tells you the bounding box for the Eiffel Tower as well too. So the output is fairly long, so I didn't include the whole thing there. But I'm going to run it now anyway, so you can see how long the output is anyway. So go into my editor, so I'm going to cancel this one and go to landmark detect. And then I'm going to cut and paste this one, save it, and then run it. Okay, so you can see even it tells you lat long, all right? So it tells you all this information. It's quite a bit, okay? And it gives like different, it says Paris as well too, so you should get a lot of output based on what's in the photograph, okay? And this application is only 14 lines long, or 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines long as well, too. Very short. All of these are very, very short. Again, the purpose is to get you started using the API and seeing how different features work. One of the greatest things about all of these exercises so far is that the first 6 or 7 lines is pretty much identical across all of them. Okay, the last one is a little bit different, and the reason is because we have 2 images to look at. Okay, so let's move to that. So we'll close this one and we'll move to the last one, which is facial detect. So let's get to that. Okay, on facial detect. So this is the API also performs facial feature detection, or what we call emotional face detection. Just facial recognition is it's a privacy concern. So this API does not have that feature, but it does recognize facial features and emotions and things like that. So anyway, so this is what this example does. There are 2 photos, so it's actually going to be in between the code and the output. So there's an image of one of my colleagues who has a surprise face. Yes, that face is definitely a surprise. It's a surprise looking at it. And then the other one is this colleague has no surprise on their face. Okay, that's what it's supposed to be. So we have 2 images. So I have a cloud storage bucket, and then I'm going to cycle through all the different images I'm going to look at. It's just 2. Okay, so this slightly differs from before, but that's no big deal. Creating of the client, creating of the image is identical. Now I have a for loop for every picture I'm going to go through. I got to set to the next image, basically. So this is just like all the other sample apps that we had, but I'm just reassigning a different image for each time I go through this loop. And then we do our normal thing, print the horizontal line, print what file it is, and then, by the way, call face detection. So we had label detection, we had text detection, we had landmark detection, now we had face detection. Okay, and then loop through all the results, and then print the save the likelihood, grab the likelihood out of that, and then do bounding boxes, and then put down, is this face surprised? What is the likelihood that the human in this photo is surprised? And then print the bounding box for the face. And so you'll see in the first image, surprise is very likely, and here's the bounding box where my colleague's head is located, and then here's the second file where my other colleague is very unlikely to be surprised, and the bounding box for his face. Okay, so that is really it. If you get this working, great. Let me see if I can get it working myself. Let's cut and paste this example into my editor and run this. So I know that all of you know that this code works, all of it, so that you can do it on your own once you get a coupon. Okay. Python 3, sorry, facial detect. And here is the likelihood and the unlikelihood and locations. Okay? So hopefully everybody gets this one working, and now you have gotten 4 things working using the Vision API. It's not that hard. There's not that many lines of code. Even if you don't do Python, you should be able to kind of understand the code that I walked you through, which is great. So let's kind of like wrap up this code lab, and then I'll show you some extra slides from last time that I want to kind of like summarize with. So anyway, so this is it. You learn how to use the Vision API. If you want to grab the code from the repo, that's fine. Again, the code in the repo is 3.6 only, 3.6 and newer, because it has all the new Python 3.6 F strings and things like that. So it's here. That's fine. I'm mostly responsible for this repo, so if you guys have any updates or fixes to it, if you find any other bugs, just let me know. Seems to be working so far. So yeah, so I want to wrap up by showing you just sort of like a review as to what the API was. I had a quick look last time, but I just want to scroll through that. So let me just pull up that one screen that describes the Vision API real quickly here. It is right. Never in the right place. Okay, here we go. All right. So in the meantime, if you have questions, please type them into the chat room, and then I'll get them as I get there. But I want to show you this one slide. Okay, and so what have we done and what have you not seen so far as to what Cloud Vision can do? So Cloud Vision lets developers understand the content of an image where it can help you identify and detect objects and labels. We did that. It can help you detect and extract text. We did that. It does landmarks. Okay. It does facial features. So what we didn't tell you that it does is it knows how to recognize corporate and product logos, which are very common. You know, obviously, if you're a one-man company or a one-woman company, we may not have your logo, or it has to be pretty well known. Okay, so that's one thing it can do: product logos, corporate logos, and then another thing it can do is it can do product search as well too. So you have, you know, famous cookies or famous food. It should be able to find that. It can also recognize explicit content as well. So if you have content that's only meant for, you know, minors and you want to filter out explicit content, you can do that as well too. So those are sort of like most, if not all of the features of the Vision API. We've done 4 of them, which is, you know, roughly about half of them. So now hopefully you have a pretty good idea as to what the Vision API is capable of, but more importantly, that you have the capability of accessing the power of machine learning with not very many lines of code using our APIs. You didn't have to do any building of models, training of models, all that was done for you. Okay? So where do you go from here? One place you can go to is you can go to AutoML. So for example, if you know the Cloud Vision API clearly knows how to recognize a bird, a plane, a dog, a cat, a muffin. It can recognize all those things, right? But maybe you're working in a specific domain. Maybe you're only working in an environment where all of the images that you're working with are, you know, perhaps medical images like CAT scans, MRIs, X-rays, and things like that. Or maybe you're only looking at images of construction blueprints, or of types of animals, or types of insects, or types of flowers. Those are very specific types of images, and our pre-trained model that's behind the Vision API has not been trained with that data. So what you can do is you can use the AutoML feature of Vision. In fact, the documentation set is the same. So if you just go to the documentation for the Vision API, which is cloud.google.com/vision, you can actually look up the docs for AutoML as well. So what AutoML does is it allows you, with, again, not a lot of machine learning expertise, to go and customize our API. Maybe you have, like, 10,000 medical images. You can actually upload those 10,000 to cloud storage. You can tell AutoML Vision to go and look at those images and re-customize the Vision API for your purposes, for your data. All right, and so that's one of the best things, and it only takes like a couple of hours to do that training, and instantly you have a brand new version of the Vision API that works just for your type of data. You can go do crazy and awesome things with it. Okay, so that's the next step. And then, of course, now that you're developing, the concept of being able to build a training set or put together a training set to build and train your models. Once your usage of machine learning becomes sophisticated enough, you can go ahead and go and use, a library. Like we don't have anything for audio files. We don't know how to recognize, a dog barking, an airplane flying over the sky. You can use a library like TensorFlow and Keras, or PyTorch or scikit-learn or something. Build your own machine learning models and training them and all that kind of stuff. So this is just the first step into a wider world, and especially if you're excited about this machine learning stuff, you can get a job as a data scientist where you're analyzing images and data all the time, and it can be pretty exciting, especially if you go into a field that has data in an area that you're personally passionate about. It's great when you can actually kind of like blend your passion with your work, and as they say, if you can do that, then you really don't have to work a day in your life, right? And being able to sort of like use the power of machine learning from Python is a really great way, an easy way to sort of get started doing that. Okay, so let me, I'm sad that the credit thing wasn't working. I'm just going to try again. I don't know if they answered me, sadly. I'm going to have to complain and yell pretty loudly. But let's see. Yeah, no, unfortunately it's still closed, so apologies for that. Like I said, there's some alternatives. You can try the $300 free trial, or you can enter your credit card and give it a shot. Don't make more than 1,000 API calls. By the way, each call that we made, so facial detect, face detect, label detect, text detect, landmark detect, that's 4 calls. Each time you run your script, that's another call. So just keep it under 1,000. It will tell you if you go to your dashboard. It will actually tell you how many calls you made. So let me close off my shell and close off the editor as well too. You can actually see how many times you've made a call to these particular APIs. So my Vision API, last night I made 13 calls. If I refresh this now, I don't know if it's going to refresh and show me all the calls that I just made now. It may, who knows? Sometimes it's a little bit of a lag between when it gets to the logging system and then when it shows up to the dashboard here. But in the meantime, I'm going to check the Q&A chat to see if anyone has. Now, yeah, it's great. How new is that feature? AutoML was announced, I believe, July of 2018, or maybe it's 2019. No, I'm pretty sure it was 2018. It's been around for a little while. You just need to search for it. The other issue is that a lot of people that have automated machine learning systems, they just call it AutoML. So you can't just search for AutoML online, because then you'll find all kinds of AutoML. You have to do like GCP or Google Cloud AutoML to actually get access to it. But it's great though, and you know, a lot of my job involves talking to students and professors at universities, and we found that a lot of students are really leveraging the power of AutoML to do their student projects within it. And if students can do that, all of you can do that too, so it's pretty cool. When will the slides be available? There's only a couple of slides. I mean, you can. I'm going to just bring up those slides again and just show them to you so you can take a picture if you want. There's only 2 slides really. So here's this one. So I'm just going to blow it up to full screen. So just take an image of it if you want. I can make a PDF and post it, you know, to the meetup.com site, so you can go and find it, you know, tomorrow or something. It's not a big deal. The most important thing is the link to the code lab here. Again, I apologize that coupon's not working. It was supposed to have worked, so we're going to get this sorted out so this doesn't happen the next time. Yeah, and I might be giving this talk again publicly. I'm not sure. Well, other than that, I will go and look for more questions, but I'd like to thank all of you for coming and spending time with us today. And again, apologies for not being able to get you guys the coupons this time around.
And I would like to take the opportunity to thank Wesley for your time and the step-by-step execution of this. As I said, we are going to record it, and we'll be sharing all the materials. I've taken a picture and I will share that in the meetup group as well. We'll send up a follow-up email and also post over there. So thank you very much. If you have some questions, we can hang on for a few more minutes, but otherwise that's it for tonight. And thank you very much for joining.